Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Blue Tengu's live game development show. Live today, got plenty of sleep after a week of no classes. Yes, so I'm ready to go. I did change the mic a little bit to see if I can get rid of those weird poppy S's that have been happening the last couple of months, and they've been driving me nuts, so I want to try a few things to see if I can get rid of them. So what I've done is I've tried to remember what I had in open broadcast software before, and doubled the mic input, lowered the volume, just to see if that would help. Because before I was always boosting the mic, because I have a very quiet voice compared to what's going on in the game. But let's get started. Jump over to the desktop. And so today, before we get started, let me go over what I did through overtime. Last week we started implementing the Twitch commands. I thought I was going to get a bunch of Twitch commands actually in there last episode, but the problem was actually getting all the Twitch code to work again. Took a lot longer than expected. Only ended up getting the Artifact Hunter Twitch command in there. But did afterwards get the Pandavit's recommendation of changing the weather. It did get that command in there. Super Enemy got that one in there. Can I add a cane filter to the mic settings? Hey, decent scrimp. I hope things are going decent for you. Yeah, it'd be awesome to add a cane filter. I don't even want to try imitating Kane. I need to think of a good line from the games, but yeah. It would be actually very awesome to have like a Simon filter on the mic. Make me sound very cool. Probably help attract a lot more people to the stream too versus my normal voice. Let's see. Also did a few things with like Twitch menus and stuff like that. That's about all I got done. Even though I don't have classes, I still have the kids. So 3 hours is actually quite a bit of overtime considering things. But this week it's going to be about adding animations. So still not entirely happy with the main character visuals, but I have to get started with the animation system itself, like actually having, calls to walk, run, jump, that sort of stuff, just to have it in there for when I drop in new sprites. So that's going to be that. By the way, decent scrimp, how are things going? Been a while since being able to talk to you. There's no one else in the room right now, so nice and quiet. So, ground and air animations. So I've got everything fired up and ready to go. By the way, let me know if the mic does make me sound weird, because I'm only going to notice like 2 hours later when I start editing this video. Let's see. So here's our main character. Right now, even if I move left and right, there's no tilting. Like way back in the day when we just had the triangle, we actually had tilting going on. May need to cough once in a while because you remember from last week that my voice was not doing too well. After that, basically just wrecked my voice, wrecked everything. Had a week of pain and suffering, and right now I'm mostly recovered. Let's go find an island. The air animations are going to be fairly trivial because we've already got the system in place for doing them. It's just that we don't have the sprites. So that's not going to be too rough. It's going to be the ground stuff that's going to take all the time. So yeah, there's my character. I'm not happy with the character. It doesn't look like a she at all, especially with like the hair just being like frozen in place and stuff. It looks like a dude with a helmet and a backpack. So that obviously needs to change. This was a big island. There's my relic. By the way, I also fixed the bug that was crashing the game from last week. There we go. So that stuff works fine. It's just the animation, because right now, he's just, or she, even I'm forgetting it's the she, is just standing there like bow-legged no matter how fast or slow they're going. So that has to change. And this ground movement brush up is in there as well because might have to limit the speeds and stuff. So first is the animation. It's probably going to have to be something that plays an image speed based on how fast the player is going, because obviously if they're walking slow, you don't want them to do this like fast run thing. So ground, animation, walking animation. As long as they're not doing anything but walking, it should be okay. Let me just see the controls real quick. See if you can move and throw a boomerang at the same time. If you can't, I'm in a good state. Okay, good. Glad to see I was thinking ahead, because the problem would be if you try to do a run animation at the same time as like a boomerang throwing animation. I don't have like skeletons or anything like that going in here, so I wouldn't be able to like have two animations going at the same time. I'd have to make the same set for both and try to blend between them. That would not be fun, but I don't have that problem, so just have to think about the walking animation first. Let's keep it simple. I even actually already have a walk animation. Sweet. That saves me a lot of time. Scares me that I don't actually have that file somewhere. Don't know what happened to it. But yeah, at least it's in GameMaker, so as long as GameMaker doesn't disappear on me, I'm okay. So it's just that I have to determine walking speed based on how fast the player is moving. Let me see something. Debug. Show debug message. Yeah, I saw draw sprite and suddenly got confused there. Let's see. Speed. I just want to see if I already do get some number for speed. If I do, then I can use that and divide it into something. If not, then I have to come up with my own system. Probably getting the distance from the old point to the new point and splitting up the speed based on that. Yeah, good on me. Good on old me for actually getting animations in there. Yeah, speed is just always 0. Okay, so I have to come up with my own system then. So be it. So object player ground step. In step. Could even say just calculate the image. Index. So, am I going to have x new versus x old to work with? I want to check, because I've had problems with this in the past, like x previous always being equal to x and stuff, depending on where I use it. So just want to make sure those numbers are actually different, because otherwise I can't use them to calculate anything. Okay, now let's look at these debug messages and see what we got. Yes, they are different. Okay, so I can use them. That's good. Yeah, the walking animation is kind of ridiculous when she's going fast, but when she's going slow, it's not really kicking in. So yeah, it's going to be very hard to optimize just using a straight like dividing. Yeah, so might be better off. Guess I could have just used my like chatty window over there. Might be better off not using just straight division, because right now I just divide by 5. So like for example, for small distances, that that's almost never going to get updated. For large distances, it's going to really churn, which is what's making her do that when she's like going far distances, and just that when she's doing small distances. So what we could do is, instead of using divide by 5, we could do something like this. Frame distance is less than... Well, first off, I need the 0 case, because I don't want to have anything animated if she's not moving. The problem is, with this mouse, when you whip it really fast, obviously the travel distance goes way up, because it's lerping. But when it hits the edge of the screen, your player is limited by how fast the screen can kind of move. So you've got this brief like flurry of activity when the mouse is whipped around like this, because this is the fastest range you can whip things around. But once you hit the edge of the screen, it slows things down. Like, that was crazy, going up to that corner there. It's just like... But then here, it's like not moving at all. So, yeah, because distance traveled. Like, when it's like that, the distance traveled value is showing 0, which is weird, because the character is moving, but it might just be so minuscule that it's not showing up, which is a problem. Yeah, it's only these like brief flurries where distance traveled seems to do anything. This is tricky. This is quite tricky. Travel distance. Let's see, travel distance 0. I wonder if this is really 0. I'll bet it is, like, even though I am moving. It might be the problem is that the view is moving and not actually the player, so X and Y could actually be the same number. Okay, where we were before the break is trying to get a good number out of this distance to point thing. The distance to point uses the X and Y of this character, so probably if we subtract out the X and Y here, it's going to give us a huge number. So we need to get rid of these at least. Hopefully I can get the ground animation working, because then I can get the tilting into the flying part, and at least have the animation systems I need for when I change the sprite to something that actually looks like a proper girl. There we go! Obviously way too fast, but we've got animation. She looks like she's had a little too much caffeine, but she is moving, even when I'm just slightly moving around, so that's good. Player could probably even stop the animation for really small distances. Yeah, thank you, Cirrus. Whew. Yeah, we're finally on the right track here. But yeah, Cirrus, asking you that question again. What shows are you currently watching right now? Like, what's actually in progress that you're watching? Let's change this to less than 20, just so that small little things don't kick off animation. And this is per frame, so I think we're going back to what I originally had in mind, which is that, you know, obviously 2 frames of animation in a frame would be way too much. Because you've got 4 frames of animation, maybe a second to loop through them. So let's drop this down to 0.5, 0.1, 0.15. Let's just shift the decimal place and see how that goes. Rewatching Wayward Pines. That show was so good. Yeah, your recommendations, man. You've saved me from complete lack of knowledge of all the good stuff that's on TV in the States. Because almost none of it gets out to Japan, especially comedy. Obviously, comedy is one of those things that doesn't translate very well cross-culturally, so they usually don't bring a lot of that stuff over here. There we go. That's about right. So we do have an animation. Walking, walking, walking. Speeds up as she goes faster. Pretty slow as she's slow. There we go. That's good. We probably do need to slow some of the top end stuff down a little bit. Okay. Yeah, that's not bad. So if you're just kind of barely moving, you're just kind of stepping along if you go fast. Yeah, there we go. I think that's a pretty good balance. Should be okay. Obviously the sprite is junk, but later on when we put in the proper sprites, as long as we still have 4 frames of animation, it should sync up fine. If we do switch to 8 frames of animation, then obviously we would have to double everything to make sure it's moving the right speed. There we go. So that's the ground character, that's fine. Probably still need a boomerang throwing animation as well. Let's see. It's probably just going to have to be a different sprite. Just to test it. Player boomerang down. Just for testing purposes, let's just do this real quick. That's that. Okay, and then we'll delete the last one, copy paste, and get rid of the boomerang just like we did in the other one. Alright, there we go. We've got our 2 things. So sprite, player, boomerang, up and down. Those are what have to be playing when the player's actually throwing the boomerang. Well, let me just check what that variable is. Okay, so we've got that going on. Throwing may not be working the way I expect. I don't think it's actually switching to the boomerang sprite. It does seem to be moving through the animation at the right speed, so that part's okay. It's just not actually picking the boomerang sprite, I don't think. So there could be something else that's overriding that. Pick a sprite. Let's just add an extra condition in here. Would we want to do that though? The problem is when you throw the boomerang, you stop, which means your y is never going to be anything. So it's never going to go into these cases because you're stopped by the time you throw the boomerang. So what we need to do is have a special case in here, maybe. Player walking up. So if the player was in the up position, then we'll make sure their boomerang goes into the up position. Otherwise, we'll do the down thing. Let's try that. And since these are obviously not doing anything, let's get rid of these. No use having extra checks that don't do anything. And actually we could bring this out of this. Might not need the else. Could just get away with that. Okay. Let's try this out. Because at least the animation was working. The speed seemed alright. It was just moving a couple, a frame every second or so. Might need to speed it up a little bit. Hopefully I can get to flying animations. If this works. So we're stopped when we throw the boomerang. There we go. Okay. Let's see. Let's try the... So it's always doing the down version of the sprite, no matter what. So that's one problem, but it is working. The other thing is I should probably actually split these two sprites out. Duplicate. Because the release part of the boomerang sprite is inside of the thing, but obviously until the player actually releases the mouse button, that's not going to be part of the sprite. Right, empty, down. Boomerang empty up. So we need this, just this last bit. Just the last bit. And we need to remove that frame from here. Remove that from there. And go into here and start editing things again. So I need to clamp this at 2, because we cut off that last frame. Speed-wise, seems to be almost okay. I could speed it up a little bit. And step. Picking a sprite. It's always picking the wrong sprite. It's always picking this one. Yeah, I see why. Okay. The first time through, it's probably actually picking the correct one, but the problem is it comes through this again, and then it updates. So what we have to do is something like that. It seems like such a silly check to do. There's probably a better way to do this, but I'll think about it. Like, it'd probably be more efficient to actually have a variable that stores whether the player is facing up or down. Because then you could just base everything based on that. Let's do it that way. In the future, that's going to be the proper way to do it. Move direction. Am I using this move direction? Kill move direction. Yeah, I can squeeze some time in for Wayward Pines. I'll figure it out. I'll have to figure it out. Boom angle. Move direction. Yeah, we are using that. Okay. Let's just do a new variable. Layer up, down. Kill direction. Face direction. Let's see if I already have. Cancel, cancel, cancel. Just want to check if I actually have the constants in there for up, down, and left, right. Now I don't want to send anything. It's fine. Okay. Just click the wrong button. Player up. Well, we do have like north, south, east, and west. There we go, direction. Okay. So we do have directions. And we can update the sprite based on that. Okay, this will be better. This will be much better. Much cleaner, less bug prone. So if the player is facing down, we want that to happen. Otherwise, we want that to happen. Easy enough. And what is the actual thing for the release? So PL Boomerang. If PL Boomerang is false, the player is not holding it. So that's what we have to have to check the sprite. So if the player is holding the boomerang, then we just do everything as we've been doing it. Otherwise, we show the empty-handed version. Boomerang empty, was it? Yes, empty. Okay. And when it comes back, I guess if the player is paused when it comes back, we can always show the boomerang back in the hand or something. We'll see how that goes. Actually tying up the sprite animation to the boomerang coming out of the player is going to be too hard. So I think we'll just leave that to the player's imagination. It is a video game, so we can get away with some stuff. Alright, let's see what happens. Okay, player still has it in their hand, and when I let go, it leaves the hand. Okay. Nice! Okay. Test this direction. That direction works too. We've got our ground animations. We've got our ground animations. Nice. Probably should actually pause until the boomerang comes back. I think for gameplay purposes I made it so that you could walk before that happens, otherwise it feels like you have too much of a delay. We can adjust that. We'll see. For now it's okay. Let's move on to the flying stuff. Player free. Draw sprites. Sprite index. So I assume I'm doing the same thing, picking a sprite outside. Yep. Yeah, so I've just got all these other ones commented out. So this one should just be a matter of dropping in some quick sprites to make sure it's working. What's it going to look like? Tilted left. You'd expect this side to be kind of shorter and this side to be longer. Probably expect the axis to be a little bit to the left as well. As because the part of the boomerang is getting cut off anyway, it might look like you're doing this. It's mostly going to be the boomerang size change that's going to let you know what's going on here. Oh yeah, I actually need to update the sprites, otherwise we're not going to be able to test any of this stuff. So sprite, pick a sprite, left, flying left, right, flying right. Okay. Left and right. Left, right. Oh, it's going to feel so good once there's actually some animation going on in there. Because you'll actually be able to feel yourself like doing this. Kind of like what we had with the triangle way back in the day. There we go. Yeah, that actually feels right. It's probably hard for you guys to tell because it is rather zoomed out. On my screen I can tell just fine what's going on. It actually looks pretty good. Surprisingly, that worked out. Because it kind of looks like the player's doing this. And it's subtle, so it feels nice and smooth. Could probably even move it a little more than 2. That might be too much. Might be too much. But it does actually feel like you're doing this a little bit. Let's keep these, just copies, and let's try to edit them a little bit more. Yeah, that's kind of a nice middle ground. The only thing that's kind of bad about it is it's a little twitchy going into and out of it. That's one of the advantages of kind of having this subtle version. Because this kind of feels like you're doing this, and that's kind of harsh. So you would have to have like an into and an out of animation and stuff like that, and that's kind of overkill when it was kind of okay before. Yeah, let's go back to the 2 version. Let's keep it subtle. So rename, keep that, get rid of the 3 version. Okay, and let's do up and down. So sprite player flying up. Up's going to be kind of tricky because I have to kind of lop her off. So let's see, if I'm going up, that kind of means the boomerang's going to come down and her legs are going to shrink a bit. Her body's going to shrink a bit to show that she's going up at an angle. Let's see. So first thing is to move this. Yeah, how do we differentiate up and down? Boomerang's going to come down or she's going to go up on it. So you're kind of doing the same thing. If she's going up, it feels like the boomerang should be kind of coming over her head. If she's going down, it should be below her. Yeah, it's going to be kind of tricky to differentiate these with the sprites I have right now. Oh yeah, she is compressing a little bit. She is compressing a little bit. Yeah, okay, I see it. It's just kind of hard to see with the effect, because if you're going backwards, the effect is going to cover your face. But she is compressing. Like, I see the boomerang coming in a little closer to her body. Her legs are going up. Okay, that's not bad. Does it feel like she's going up into the air, though? Does it feel like she's pulling backwards? Kind of. But again, differentiating it from when she's going forward is going to be interesting. Like, maybe when she's going forward, her boomerang should actually stretch out a little bit, rather than trying to compress. Because, like, it feels like, you know, when she's compressing, it feels like she's trying to slow down, pull back. That makes sense. And if she's trying to go forward faster, maybe it makes more sense for her arms to go out. So let's try that. Things should work. And if they do, we can wrap up because we've got our animations ready to go logic-wise, just for when the sprites get updated. May just have to get rid of her steampunk helmet, because if her character is going to be that small, it's going to be kind of hard to make it look like a woman with the helmet. Probably going to need to have the hair going. Yeah, that looks right. It looks like she's shifting up and down against the boomerang. So when she's going forward, she's kind of leaning out, and when she's going back, she's pulling the boomerang into her. So she's pushing forward, pulling back. All right, we got it. Nice, nice. Yeah, editing sprites. You have to keep that in mind. Editing sprites it always makes me break into a sweat. I wish I was more like 123 Gas, you know, who's comes into the show once in a while now, is actually able to edit sprites, make images real quick. Not my strong point, obviously. I'm not an artist. So ground player sprite, we do need to, that's actually brush up task, so we do need to do that. Whoops. Okay, there we go. But ground player animations, we do have the rough animations, so I should have broken this task out a little bit. 1.0 ground player animations. So this is like the rough logic. 1.0 air player animations. And considering it took about an hour each, probably the final animations are going to take some time. Rough animation. Rough animation. And there was game design involved in that as well. So that is done. Ground player animations, air player animations, those are done. Landing effect, we never did do that, so we'll save that. Ground player movement brush up. I have a pretty good hint as to how to go about this. Now that we kind of looked in there, it's like, okay, I need to cap these values. It's those values I need to cap to brush the ground movement up. But once that's done, ground movement should be brushed up, so that's not a problem. Yeah, I'm not an editor either. Yeah. Sprite editing. Not my strong suit. So, episode 45, Fear the Reaper, we got all the animation logic we need, so we're all set with logic. It's just brush up work now that we've got left. So that was episode 45. Thank you for sticking with me. That was a lot of watching me animate stuff. But let's think about next week. Episode 46. Move that list to the beginning. While I'm at it, probably won't get a lot of overtime done because I do have a class this week, but just to have it there, so I might do some after this show. They'll have to get going pretty soon. Get those things over. Alright, so episode 46. What should we do from this list here? Brush up stuff, that's going to come later. Landing effect, that's a possibility. A lot of these things are just things I can knock off in overtime. Converting the tiles, yeah, we should probably get around to that. We'll take off icon with the effect. Let's put that in there. Kind of put these as a set. Just so that when the player is over the ground, they have some sort of icon that they can kind of know, okay, I can land. Or I can take off. They need something. And same, they need a landing effect or something as well. So those are kind of a set. It's probably worth doing those. I'm going to try to start converting the map tiles just on the laptop at work or something during lunch breaks and whatnot, because that needs to get done. Right now all the tiles are the exact same tile. So like you have one swamp tile, you have one forest tile, you have one grass tile. I have all of the scans ready to go. It's just actually converting them to PNG files and dumping them in the game that needs to be done. But that's a lot of work. Probably wouldn't make a very exciting episode to just watch me do that. But you know, if time starts to run out, we're gonna have to devote some episodes to that. I do have to get around to tutorials as well, so those might be some later episodes. Artifacts, making sure they're random, that's more of an offline task. Menu controller support, that's probably more of an offline task. We're pretty much done with the stuff that's going to be interesting to watch in an episode. Lots of bugs and brush up stuff. So the actual game functionality is getting there. Yeah, seriously, you don't mind watching? That's cool. We might have to start doing that because it's going to make a big difference to the game. Right now it's kind of plain. You know, you're wandering over the islands and you just have repeating tiles and stuff. It feels very rough and gamey. So yeah, it might have to have a few episodes that are just quieter episodes with that, and maybe, you know, YouTube like we did last week. Last week we spent most of the time getting the old Twitch functionality to work again, so I actually made the YouTube episode like 25 minutes long, just really compressed. So we might do like adding those tiles in on Twitch, and then just when we come to the YouTube episode, just make it like, you know, 10 minutes or something where it's just, this is the way the world changed. There you go. There's your update. Because, you know, YouTube format, if it's not live, there's no point in watching a lot of like the kind of just sitting there doing stuff kind of segments. But there we go. So next week we'll do landing and takeoff stuff. Once that's done, probably future episodes. Let's Move that to the archive. Probably going to have to finish off those tutorials. Artifacts, monoliths, moving to rooms. Circling and landing. Yeah, so that's going to be like enemy stuff. So that's pretty important, knowing what to do with enemies. Circling, landing, that shouldn't be too tricky. If I do get some overtime, I might be able to pull some of these off in advance, but that's probably going to be episode 47, then after that, it's going to be whatever we need to get done, and then brush up work. So there we go. Going to wrap it up. Yes, tutorial series. Always exciting, always much more complicated than you expect them to be, as it works. So jump off the desktop and get my times. Yep, there we go. Make sure I get these right. So thank you for watching our game development show. We actually got some stuff done today. You can catch past episodes and this one over at youtube.com/BlueTenguStudio. We do edit the episodes so that you don't just have to watch me bumbling around as much as you do on Twitch. If you are watching this later on YouTube, though, come drop by the live show we do every week on Twitch TV Blue Tengu, because watching me bumble around and being able to chat about it's much more exciting than watching it on YouTube. Sundays, we do this 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. in Japan, which translates to Saturdays 4 to 6 Pacific, daylight, 5 to 7 Mountain, 6 to 8 Central, 7 to 9 Eastern. If you're in the UK, it translates to midnight, that Friday to Saturday, that midnight until 2 a.m. early Saturday morning. If you're in Japan with me, obviously it's 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. If you're in Australia, which is pretty close in terms of longitude to Japan, it starts 8 a.m. to noon depending on where you live, and it starts at noon in New Zealand. But we do always announce what we're doing through Twitter, so follow btengu, BTENGU, to keep track of when the live show starts or episodes go up. Or follow us on Twitch or YouTube, and you can get announcements that way. Of course, you can see what we're up to anytime over at our site, bluetengu.com. And again, if you pitched in a little extra for Project Spaghetti over at itch.io, our Season 1 game, you do have the Sapphire Key. You need to unlock prototypes as we put them up. Today's prototype I think I will put up. And of course, we would appreciate your support in getting us greenlit on Steam. By the way, the Twitch functionality is set to automatically turn on, so if you do play the prototype, if you do put your Twitch info in, it should work. Let me know if it doesn't. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.